Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this week's Parsha Insights. I'd like to actually dedicate this week's Parsha to a very special wedding that's happening this Sunday. Tali Fan and Zach Mockton are getting married, which is really exciting, finally, after a couple of months of waiting. So I just kind of like do it in their honor, or mazel tov for them. So this week's Parsha, Parshat Chukat Balak. There's so much going on. It's a double parsha, and it's Jack Rosenthal's bar mitzvah. He's like got a double parsha to read, and it's a long one. Baruch Hashem, and there's so much to talk about. But I want to talk about a very famous, powerful topic, which is the beginning of this week's parsha. Beginning of the first one talks about the para Atuma, the red heifer. The parsha starts off by Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe ve'el Aharon lemor. Hashem spoke to Moshe and Aaron saying, Zos Chukas Torah, this is the statute, this is the law of the Torah, Tiva Hashem lemor, that Hashem commanded, saying, Daber el bnei Yisrael, speak to the Jewish people, V'yichelecha para adum, which you take for yourself a para adum, a red heifer. This is a process, a purification process that happened when someone became impure through touching a dead corpse. Now this cow had to be within its third year, completely red, couldn't even have two black hairs, no blemishes, and it couldn't have worked a day in its life. So someone who comes into contact with this corpse, with a dead body, they become impure, and as part of the process, the Kohen would slaughter this red cow. He would burn it together with cedar branch, with crimson wool, hyssop, and then you take all these ashes, mix it with mineral water, and sprinkle the mixture on the impure person. Now, like the detail, it just seems like it's just so much detail, so much intricate detail into some process which we don't really understand. Definitely in today, 2020, we find it hard to grasp these concepts of purity, impurity. In fact, there's quite a bit about Judaism which we struggle still to understand, and no matter how much we study and try to learn, there are still elements of our Jewish life which we struggle with understanding. And what's fascinating is when the Torah describes this commandment, it calls it Zot Chukat HaTorah. This is the Chukat. A Chuk is like a statute, like a law without reason. It's a law kind of that's fixed in, and there's some commandments that the Torah seems to be teaching us over here that come without a full understanding and a full reason. Now the Kedushas Levi, Reb Levi Yitzchak Berditchev, he says the real reasons of mitzvahs are actually concealed from man. That he brings this pasuk of Zos Chukas Torah, and he says it could have said Zos Chukas Para. This is the statute, the law of the para, the law of the cow, the law of the purification process. And no, it says this is the law, the statute of the Torah, showing us that nearly the entire Torah kind of has these laws that we struggle with understanding. The first Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Baal HaTanya, he brings in Geras HaKodesh 19. He says the reasons for mitzvahs transcend our conception and comprehension. They're really just kind of like the real reasons. And he says even we have a reason. Let's say you take matzah on Pesach, or certain reasons, certain mitzvahs that we do. We understand. There's kind of an understanding of why we do these mitzvahs. But the Baal HaTanya, the Shnei Zaman of Liadi, is saying that even those that we understand, there is so much within a mitzvah, so much depth, so much to the action that we're doing to create this relationship with Hashem that we actually don't really understand. And what we do know is literally touching the surface, like you're scraping a bit of a layer. Sometimes we hear concepts and ideas like, wow, that's amazing. But then the more we study, we hear a bigger idea, like, oh, wow. So every time we kind of try to have a reason and understand the mitzvah, all we're doing, we're kind of peeling off layers of understanding, going deeper and deeper, because the mitzvahs, that there's such an infinite wisdom and depth to mitzvahs. The action we're doing, it stops there. You know, we shake the lulav, we're shaking the lulav, and zahu, that's it. But the depth, it goes so deep. And the Kedushas Levi, Reb Levi Yitzchak Berditchev continues, and he says, our souls, our neshama come from a place on high. Come from actually the kisei hakavod, the glory that the Hashem's throne itself. And the soul has a full understanding of what's going on. As you know, there's a constant struggle within ourselves. There's the body, there's the physical side of us, and there's a spiritual, there's the soul. The soul the soul is so godly that it constantly wants to connect. The soul understands so much of what's really happening in this world. So much of how and why we do things, and that's why it wants to constantly do it. But our body doesn't have that comprehension, and that's why we are constantly struggling. The Derech Hashem, a work by Moshe Chaim Luzzatto in the 1730s, talks about a man being composed of two opposites, the same idea. He said each side leans towards what's most comfortable with. My body is leaning towards eating a good steak, whereas my soul is leaning towards yearning and connecting with a higher power and a more meaningful purpose of life. And he says the way, if we're able to kind of humble our body, connect with our soul, we're able to elevate our body with our soul and bring ourselves to a much higher plane. Whereas if we go towards our body and our body kind of drags our soul down, we end up kind of going more of a downer in this world. So if the body knows, with this concept and idea, if our body would know, if we were able to get our body to grab some knowledge, some idea of what a mitzvah is, then possibly the struggle we have within each of us wouldn't be so hard. So how can we change our mindset? How are we able to kind of change our mindset that we're able to do things without the body having to know everything, without the body feeling that I need to know before I do any action in connecting to God? The body's like, I need to know it. But how can we change our mindset to change that? So of course, it's a lifetime's work to be able to get our body to connect to a much higher plane and to just kind of live on a different frequency, still living within this world, but more of a holy experience. And what he said, so I want to just give you a little glimpse and an idea. So let me ask you all a question. Do you need a reason to enjoy chocolate cake? Do we need a reason to enjoy a delicious steak that's been grilled to perfection, medium rare, minute, 2 minutes aside? Do we need a reason to enjoy it? When I'm sitting in the steak, I'm thinking why am I enjoying this? Why do I need to enjoy this? How does it, make the calculations? I don't make calculations when I'm sitting there on a nice barbecue, enjoying my beer and a steak. I enjoy it. Not much thought goes into the reason behind it. When we go to a doctor's surgery and they prescribe us medication, antibiotics or any other kind of help that we need in our health, we look at the side effects, we check it out, but do we really check and delve into the reasons and say, I'm not taking this until I know all the chemical, everything that goes into it, around it, behind it, how it's going to work in my body, how it might not, do I go into it? No, we leave that to the doctors to spend their years understanding and knowing this stuff, and we trust them, and hopefully we'll be able, Howard, you're shaking your head. we try our best to understand, but we don't delve into it too much. Now, as you probably can hear, I love food. I enjoy eating food. But I don't need to know the recipes and what goes into the detail of the food and the delicious food that Michal makes. I sit there, I eat it, and I enjoy it. But how about this? If I'm there eating my food, and I do know the process, and I know it went 18 hours at 158 degrees in the sous vide, and I know this mixture, that sauce, and I know the process and the length of time and the work and effort it took to put into the food, I actually will appreciate the food a bit more. It actually makes it more delicious. If we know the process, if we have some inkling, some idea of the process of this food, the process, we will be able to hopefully appreciate it more. Now, I saw it says somewhere beautiful. It says in Tehillim, Ta'amu Ru'u Ki Tov Hashem. It's words of Tehillim which we actually say every Shabbos morning, and it's words that resonate with me so much. Ta'amu Ru'u, Ta'amu. Taste, Uru'u, and see how great Hashem is. Now, I want to give, when I was looking over this week, I looked at them when I was kind of talking about these ideas, I thought of Tamur. I was like, wow, it really goes. And then I thought even better. Tamur, right? Tam, don't just make good shawarma. Tam has two meanings. Tam is reason and taste. Taste and reason. So not just tasting how great Hashem is, also at the same time finding a reason. Because the more we taste godliness, the more we will have a reason to grow in our Judaism, and the more reason we will have to grow in our Judaism, the better relationship will be and the more it will taste. It's kind of like a cycle going around. We kind of got to get the taste, then we give a reason, then we're kind of like, oh wow, there's so much more meaning towards it. And then once there's meaning, I want to do it more. It's like a relationship. We don't do things in relationships because they make sense. We don't. We actually can't do things in relationships because they make sense, because a lot of times it doesn't make sense, but we still do it. Now let me ask you, what's a more meaningful relationship? When a spouse, parent, or child asks you something, they ask you to do them a favor. And when they ask you, you start to think and you calculate. You're like, we ask you to do that. Let me see, if I do that, then I'm going to be able to go there, then I'm able to do this. But why am I really doing this for you? Do you deserve this? Why should I do this? How am I going to do this? I'm going to gain more from it. If you're asking those questions, you're making those calculations. It's not a great relationship. But what about a relationship when a parent, spouse, or child asks you a question, asks you a favor, and you turn around, yes, I want to do this because I love you, because we have a relationship. We don't ask those questions. We just jump and do it. Now, when there's a reason, when we know it'll make them happy, when we know it'll give them satisfaction, we do it with even more fervor. But we don't need a reason to start to do it. And we do so much in our life without reason. So much without working and calculating behind it. Like flying a plane. How often do we check into the mechanical engineering of a plane before we take a flight? Do we need to know? We don't need to know. I don't need to know. But if I know all the engineering that goes on behind it, if a mechanical engineer who built a plane is sitting on a plane, he's like, wow, like he's appreciating it so much, how every single little bolt and screw means so much. But he doesn't need it to fly. It just could give them, and it could give us a bigger appreciation. So many, electricity, there's so much that we really don't understand. But when we do, we have a greater appreciation. So what is really powerful about this Para Aduma in this week's Parasha of the Red Heifer? It's used and as an example of a commandment that's done without a reason. And it's something we do to strengthen our relationship with Hashem. And it's something that purifies a person, that makes them holy again. And we do it seemingly without a reason, without an understanding. But what I find incredible is towards the end of the Red Heifer explanation, Rashi brings an explanation from a medrash. And he actually goes into detail. And he gives a reason for the Para Aduma. And he says, recently we had the Egel Azav, the golden calf. The Jews celebrated. They danced around the golden calf. They sinned by serving the golden calf. And he gave an example. And he said, this red heifer is coming to atone for it. He said, imagine a mother and a child are in someone's house or a king's palace, and the child makes a mess. Who cleans up the mess? It's the mother that goes there and she's, oh, my child made a mess, I'm going to clean up. So we messed up with the calf. The calf was the one that messed up. So the mother cow, this has to be a female cow, the mother cow has to come along and kind of clean up the mess and purify the Jewish people again. So there is a reason for the Para Aduma. What this message and what I find so powerful about this is there is reason. There are reasons for everything. But we don't need to have a reason in order to do. And like I said, the more we taste, the more we get to do, the more we'll have a reason, the more we'll have a feeling to want to do it more with fervor and excitement. And once we're doing that, the reason's going to come, the action's going to come, and it's just going to be a cycle of growth and excitement. And also it says in Pirkei Avot, I saw something beautiful. It says, Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa says, someone whose actions exceed his wisdom, If someone does action is kind of more powerful than his wisdom, then the wisdom will endure. If someone's wisdom is more than his wisdom will not endure. If we're just trying to work out too many calculations of why we're doing things, it won't last. We need to put action into it, and then we'll be able to be on this cycle of going higher and higher. So what comes first? As we've learned, as we've seen, it's taste, and then we'll see. Na'aseh v'nishma, we said the Jewish people, when they received the Torah, what the words they said, Na'aseh v'nishma, we will do, but then we will listen. Then we'll get a reasoning. Judaism is not about just doing for no reason, just doing because. And it's not about just having reason and no action. We need to mix the two together. And with that, we'll be able to taste the beauty of it all. Like, you won't be able to appreciate chocolate without tasting it. You can't describe a taste of chocolate to someone. You got to taste it. And then you could talk about the flavors. Or a good whiskey. You can't explain some of the flavor, the taste of whiskey. Once you're appreciating it, you could talk about the flavors and the taste and enjoyment of it. So I just want to say, hopefully we'll be able to grab as much as we can, taste as much as we can. Time will taste the beauty. Every little mitzvah that we do, every little action we do to create and connect with Hashem and make this relationship so much more beautiful. With that, we'll be able to find the reason and not just wait, okay, I need to know everything before I continue my journey. And I want to just say, thank you so much for listening, and I wish you all a beautiful, incredible, delightful Shabbos Kodesh.